This is a download from Rutland Radio.
Hello, and thank you for downloading the Rutland Radio podcast from rutlandradio.co.uk. This is where you can hear the best bits from the last week.
Stephen Rickard.
Shona Rickard.
Now we've got Jack and Ava here as well. This is Jack's journey. This is all the fundraising for him at the Wicked Witch at Ryle. And you can barely move in there today. How does that make you feel?
Unbelievable. We're blown away by all the support we've had from all the team here in Ryle, and they've absolutely filled the place. And the Wicked Witch, of course, who have offered us their venue and hosting it, have been tremendous too. So it's been absolutely lovely. We can't move in there for people, and they're all here for Jack, which is superb.
What do you think about it, Jack? There's so many people here just for you.
It's really good.
Now, tell us what Jack needs and what all this fundraising is for.
Jack's got cerebral palsy, and we are trying to raise £60,000 for an operation for him at Great Ormond Street. It's sadly not funded on the NHS, so we need to fund the money ourselves. And the operation will just enable Jack to keep walking. He walks at the moment, but as he grows, the spasticity in his legs is getting worse, and this operation will reduce that spasticity and keep him on his feet.
Tell us how you've been raising the funds, because yesterday you had this big toy sale as well at Barnock.
Yeah.
I mean, how great is that for children?
Well, it's unreal. We've got a super team of people who came up with loads of ideas. We've got a summer ball due. There's a big summer auction. We've had the toy sale. And we've done numerous other events that have already got us probably close to half of the money already, especially with today at the Wicked Witch. And I think the other events that we've got planned will get us to our goal. We're very, very thrilled with where we're going at the moment. So it's brilliant. And it's all down to people, many, many people and friends that really truly help us out, and all the kind people that donate continuously, either their time or money, that will get us there.
So how can people find out a bit more if they're not able to actually get along to one of these events?
So if you go on to www.jacks-journey.com, you can read all about Jack. There's a link to a Just Giving page, or they can contact us, srickard9@aol.com, and we can actually help and guide them and tell them how they could possibly help us, going forward. But yeah, it's all down to effort, really. That's what does it. You get things like this, and it's just mind-blowingly brilliant for people like us who need, that little bit of help in life to help our boy keep out of a wheelchair.
This is Rutland Radio.
Right, well, I'm Rosemary Cannadine, and I'm the chairman of the Society, Liddington Manor History Society, and I have been the director of the project, which has culminated in the book produced today.
Isn't it wonderful to just be here in St Andrew's Church and see so many people walking out with this wonderful, nearly 400-page book of so many years' work?
It's been astounding seeing it come through. We've had sessions where we've argued, doubted, but in the end, with so many people's persistence, it's actually finally happened. I can't quite believe it.
So what period of history, where does it begin?
It really begins when the Burleys acquired the manor, because the records at Burley have been absolutely paramount in being able to unearth the history of this manor. And they were given the manor in 1551, but it was not actually in their hands until the last of the Cromwells, Gregory and Elizabeth, his wife, had died. They came from Laund, which is not so far away from here, and Elizabeth didn't die until the 1560s. So it came into their hands on her death.
And you've given copies free to people in the 4 villages that were part of the old manor?
All of the households within the manor were funded by Heritage Lottery Fund to receive a free copy, so that they would know the history and the significance of the history of their houses within this manor.
So tell us the significance, as you say, of when the Burleys acquired it.
Well, because Burley acquired it, they acquired some of the records, just a few, from the bishops of Lincoln, but they mainly set up the manorial courts, which enabled all the property transfers to be recorded. Because most of the properties in the village were copyhold, that meant that their records were copied into the manor court roll. So we got from that the property transfers that enabled us to trace the ownership of the properties. We couldn't have done it without that.
So would people who lived in the houses around that period, would they have been tenants to the manor effectively?
They are called tenants, but it works very much in the same way as if they had a freehold. They actually own the tenancy. They would call themselves owners, but technically they're tenants and they're written into the Manor Court roll as tenants, yes. But they have the freedom to transfer their property to somebody else. They will do it outside and they will, if you like, surrender, that's the word that is used, surrender their property to somebody else who will pay them whatever the market price was. And the person who's receiving the property will come to the court and they will be admitted by the court to that property. And all those records are in the court rolls.
So over what sort of period is this, 200 years?
A little bit longer than that. The first records we have are 1460s, and we have traced one house back to the 1460s. And the end of the manorial court system was in 1925, though I have to say there was considerable tidying up after that, and the latest record we have is from 1949. So we're going from 1460 to 1949.
Tell us a little about what the Liddington Manor History Society does, because you have talks, you have visits.
Yes, we've done a lot of talks and we've brought in really experts in certain areas. So we have brought in people who would talk about title deeds, who would also talk about the stonework that went into the buildings, how they used the stone, how the woodwork was done, how people actually lived and worked in the manor. People have looked, for instance, at the community records, such as the Overseers of the Poor records, and also all the church registers. So we've got births, marriages and deaths, the whole lot. It's an astonishing collection. It's astonishing survival.
So it's people in Liddington, Stoke Dry, Thorpe by Water and...
There's a little village which was occupied. Probably hardly anybody lived there by the 1600s. But it was certainly occupied in the 1300s. And that's called Snelston. And the road from Caldecott to Uppingham was driven through the middle of that village in the 1750s when they built the turnpike.
It is just incredible to think hundreds of years of history have been celebrated here today.
I know, it's astonishing to me, and it's a great thing that they've still survived and they've actually hung on to them at Burley. They've had to be gathered together. I found the records for Liddington, the early records for the manor, all muddled up with Barradon, shoved in a trunk. I had to separate them all, undo them all, bunch them together, get the bundles of papers together, and finally we got a very unusual collection which has got all the draft court rolls and all the little papers. So you've got, for instance, the chap who was tasting the ale to make sure it was the right quality. His little record is in there, and it's still there, and it's online now.
Now, people can buy this book, can't they?
Yes, of course, they can buy the book. There's an online order form. They can do that, or they can simply look up Liddington Manor History Society and find the society, and all the details are on there.
Dr. Rosemary Cannondine, thank you very much for joining us on Rutland Radio today.
Well,
great pleasure to be here. It really is.
I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoy reading the book, and I hope many other people will too.
The weekly Rutland Radio podcast.
Cameron, Lola, Ali, Holly, Charlie, Finn, Sam, Oliver, Finn, Fiona.
So how was it then, actually seeing Sarah Ooten actually in the flesh? Because you've seen her on a big screen before, haven't you?
Yeah, it was really inspiring, and she told us all of her stories, and it was really cool.
Can you imagine what it actually would have been like being on the ocean for so long?
Yeah, I would have found it quite scary, but as Cameron said, it was quite inspiring.
So what have you learnt today that maybe you could do when you're older?
Not to give up and stuff, and maybe I could be more adventurous and open up to lots more things.
What do you think your mum and dad would say if you said you were going to travel around the world?
I'm not really sure. They probably say, yeah, do it, but it really depends what it was. But I probably would do it, because that's what they said, just do it.
Do you realise how special it is actually to have Sarah with you today? Because she's not going to every school, she's only going to just a small amount.
Yeah, it's really special that she came to our school, and we're glad to have her here.
And what does it mean to you actually to just imagine those 4 years that she was away?
Well, it would have been quite hard for her, and I can imagine that there would have been a lot of challenges that would be tough.
And what do you think about actually the talk that you've heard today? What's your favourite part?
When she told us about the Gao, he was a Chinese guy who had actually never rode a bike more than 10 kilometres, but then went with her and rode across China to Beijing.
Can you imagine actually riding more than 10 kilometres?
It must be really hard and challenging for her to do it, and with the punctures and breakdowns every so often.
Did anyone ask any questions at the end as well?
Not really, but I'm sure people probably had lots of questions to ask.
So what do you think, actually, having heard that all today?
I think it's inspired everyone to, not give up and do things that they never thought they could.
Rutland Radio's Best Bits on the podcast.
Well, as you've heard me mention, Change Agents UK celebrating Fairtrade Fortnight at Oakham Railway Station. We're here on Platform 1. I'm here with Mika Skadova. What a wonderful cake store you've got. Is this all your own work?
Yes, this is all our staff work. We all pitched in yesterday night, baking late, and we use most of the Fairtrade ingredients that we could get our hands on, and we're very excited to be selling today.
How fantastic is it that obviously you've got an office here as part of the railway station, so you perfectly pitched to raise some money today?
Not only perfectly pitched, but we're also helping to bring life back to the abandoned spaces. So when we were here placed several years ago, we actually bringing the sustainability back to the unused offices, and sustainability plays a huge part of what we do, as we are a sustainable charity and non-for-profit. Our aim is to help young people and graduates to find jobs in ethical and responsible businesses. Not only, ethical and responsible, but we'll also want them to create a force for sustainable future. And sustainability, as I mentioned already, plays a huge part in this, and Fairtrade for us is a key to sustainable farming and agriculture as well.
So really, this is the first time there's been a cafe here at the train station. I don't ever remember this happening before, apart from obviously when you do it each time.
Yes. So actually, it's a very good point that maybe for popular demand, we might return a few times a year for this. But yes, annually, we are able to sell the cakes off and coffee and hot chocolate and tea once a year on a Fairtrade Fortnight event here from the station. There are no facilities around here, so it's a bit tough for the commuters, but we hope we'll cheer their day today with something a little bit sweet and start their rainy day off in a nice way today.
And it's all about Fairtrade ingredients, I guess, as well, is it?
Yes, so it also has a good feel factor to it, and we hope that we can explain not only what we Change Agents UK do, but also about what Fairtrade actually brings and how the consumers actually have the buying power to change things around, so they can actually help the farmers and the agriculture, for the farmers to be paid fairly and for them to have a better working conditions, which is what Fairtrade is all about. And all the proceeds today that we're going to raise are going to be donated to the Fairtrade Foundation, and we hope to beat our last year's record so far, so hopefully we'll see you here.
So if you're heading off to Oakham Railway Station today, Platform 1, it couldn't be easier to find, really. You've got a great display here. I hope you managed to actually sell all of it.
Yes, we've been really successful in the past, so hopefully we'll be sold out by the time we close. So we close about 11:15 by the last morning commuter.
Rutland Radio's Best Bits on the podcast.
I'm Holly and I'm playing Hermione. I'm Ned and I am playing Kingsley Shacklebolt.
I'm Rory and I'm playing Oliver Wood.
Now, Platform 9 3/4 has actually come to Whistendine. Did you know there was a train station here before today?
No.
So tell us what you know about Harry Potter.
His worst enemy is Voldemort, and his wand and Voldemort are in some way twins.
Now, you're carrying what looks like a coffee here. What's in there?
It's actually butterbeer.
What's it made out of?
It's made out of milk, butter, sugar.
How's it taste?
Really nice.
Lots of children have wands here today, so have you got special powers with that?
Well, Kingsley's wand, I'm not too sure on it, but I think it does have a unicorn horn, like Harry's, which makes it better with less direct spells.
Okay, so it's just like, not thinking of what you've got to fix directly, but thinking of other things that might influence it, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And this is the first time that the school's done a complete Harry Potter transformation, isn't it?
Yeah.
When did you first know this was going to be going on?
Probably about 2 weeks ago when we got a letter.
What did that say?
You will be invited to Hogwarts on the 3rd of March.
And here we are on World Book Day. Now, 100 countries around the world are doing this, but here we are in Whistendine. Now, I have the very intimidating, scary head teacher. But you're not normally as intimidating and scary as this, are you?
I hope not.
So tell us why you decided to look at Harry Potter, because I guess that is the costume that, given the choice, more children than any other would go for.
I thought it was an exciting theme, something that every child could get involved in, whether they were smaller or some of our older children. And it's quite magical. It's in a whole new world. So, yeah, it's pretty wondrous for them.
Now, you got some building work going on outside, but actually you did do your own building work overnight as well. So I guess the whole school stayed over to do this.
We did. So when the children left yesterday, as normal, the school looked pretty normal, as it does. And then straight after school, all of the staff got completely involved and transformed the entrance porch into platform 9 3/4, the foyer into Hogwarts, and the Great Hall with floating candles and Ollivander's wand shop.
How true is it that the school fire alarm went off when Hogwarts Express started?
Yes, it did, because our Hogwarts Express does have smoke coming out of the funnel. And yes, the smoke alarms did go off, but we found a way to work around that, shall we say.
Obviously, reading and books is a big part of school. You must have a lot, who are really enthusiastic about books here.
Absolutely. It's about encouraging those readers from an early age all the way through. So it's finding different ways of getting them interacting and excited about reading and books.
Naomi Frith.
And I believe that a lot of this is thanks to you today. How long did this take to do?
Quite some time, but it's nice to see the kids enjoying it. That's the main thing.
How did you transport a train in the car, or did you carry it down Main Street?
That was due to my husband and his van.
It really kind of brings it all to life, though, for the children, doesn't it?
Looking at their faces, definitely. They're full of magic today, which is what it's all about.
This is Rutland Radio.
As well as Whistendine, we've been to Langham C of E Primary School. And what are your names?
Harriet and Evie.
Now, tell us about World Book Day in school today. What's been happening?
We have a book fair every Tuesday to Friday, and every child gets a £1 voucher. And today we invited an author, Lee Gregory, who has written stories about a girl called Rahini Malini, who imagines travelling around the world and exploring different countries such as India, Australia, Spain, Thailand and their cultures. We have a big read to share books with other people. Teachers swapped class to read their favourite books to the children. The money that we raise at the book fair goes towards buying new books for the school library, and other children love the opportunity to read to the little ones.
So you've been doing all that today?
Yeah. And
so what are your favourite books
all
then?
Through the week. I like Girl Online by Zoe Sugg.
What about you, Evie?
All of the Harry Potter books.
Obviously, we're surrounded by books here and stuff. Mm-hmm. Children are quite good at reading, but when you get a bit older, you don't tend to do it as much. What would you say to anyone who's listening, who's a bit older, listening to the radio this morning?
Well, reading is really fun and it's much better than watching TV. And if you don't like the book at the beginning, at least get to the middle and you might start to enjoy it.
When you get a book, do you actually find that if you get a nice thin book, you think it's going to be easier to read, but if you get a thick book, you find out how many pages are in before you start? Or is that just me?
Well, I do check how many pages there is, but it doesn't really matter, because as long as it's a good book. And I have a thing about a book having too many words in it, because sometimes I get a bit bored. But if there's a book that I really like, then I will read the whole thing.
Good to meet you today. Thanks for joining us on Rutland Radio. So have you enjoyed World Book Day?
Yes, I think it's been very fun. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot because you got to dress up and read books.
The weekly Rutland Radio podcast.
So we're here at the side of the Oakham bypass here. Lots of high-vis jackets, lots of bin bags. Lots of rubbish or not, Vanessa?
There is actually a variety of rubbish, as you can see.
Yeah, that's someone's sealant that's fallen off a van,
floor,
I guess. Yeah.
But it's mainly actually probably a lot of paper cups from the coffee shop at Marks and Spencer's. But selection of beer cans, etc.
And this is all Clean for the Queen, which, loads of organisations are doing. Land's End, Oakham in Bloom, working
Land's
together
End,
here.
I think the majority of the staff out here right now are actually all from Land's End. So, and we're doing it in half-hour slots throughout the day. So, all good stuff.
Excellent stuff. I guess, it does make a difference, doesn't it, to your working environment. If you're seeing litter strewn over the side of the road, it's not as nice to come to work.
Yeah, I think you're actually quite oblivious to it on the way to work. But actually, as you're walking down the road today, it's like, really? People are, that shocking lazy just to throw things out. It's not very nice.
You got enough people?
We're quite happy to have any more volunteers if anybody wants to come down. So, but yeah, it's a good turnout so far.
Just pop along basically to Land's End.
Land's End, yeah, pick up your little stick.
I know Jackie's looking after things in the restaurant.
Yes, she's down organising everything down there. So, yeah. We've got the gloves, we've got the high vis, and we've got the little pokey sticks. So
yeah, that's the best bit, isn't it?
I'm having lots of fun playing with that.
Thanks for joining us on Rutland Radio.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for this week's Rutland Radio podcast. If you have any comments, you can email us via the website rutlandradio.co.uk, and we'll have a new version on our website from Monday.
This is a download from Rutland Radio. For more information, go to rutlandradio.co.uk. This is a download from Rutland Radio.
Hello, and thank you for downloading the Rutland Radio podcast from rutlandradio.co.uk. This is where you can hear the best bits from the last week.
It's quite noisy at the fair, but I'm here with the Mayor of Stamford. Hello.
Oh, good evening. Welcome. Hello, everybody.
And you've opened the fair now, haven't you?
I have. I've had the pleasure of opening the fair. I've just been on the Dodgers with my granddaughter, and now I'm going to go on the carousel with my grandson, who is 1 today.
Oh, lovely. What a birthday treat, eh?
Especially, yes, it is, isn't it?
And, I mean, this fair in Stamford is basically the pinnacle of all fairs, isn't it? Let's be honest.
It's excellent, and we've got a lovely evening. It's always nice people that run the fair. This gentleman next to me is the chairman of the Showman's Guild, and they're so welcoming to us, so we're very pleased to have them in our town.
And it's here all week, of course.
All week, yes, and hopefully the weather stays like it is this evening, so they have a good week.
All right, thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Highlights from the past 7 days, the Rutland Radio podcast.
We're here with William Percival, who's the Vice Chairman of the Showman's Guild, the people who bring this fair to Stamford. And you know, we've been speaking to some of the ride operators here, and it is one of their favourites. It's a cliche to say that, you know, in terms of we think they probably say that to everyone, but they truly don't, do they?
We always look at Stamford as being the start of our season. It's a lovely place to come to, and what a place to start. We usually get quite a lot of people, and after the winter months, because you see showmen here that you haven't seen for quite a while, and you meet up every year.
And this is over 800 years that there's been a fair here in Stamford.
Yeah, I haven't been to every one.
I haven't been either. But, you know, it's a great spectacle, isn't it? It's a lot of fairs that come together here from the Deeping, Uppingham area, from Wisbech. There's rides that come all over the place.
They come from all over the country, actually.
Yeah.
Because some of the rides come as far as from down London, from up north. Stamford, we've been coming to Stamford all our lives. And if you look back at the old archive, the names are still there. The names has been there for generations. And it's just been bred into you know, that the beginning of the year officially for us is Stamford Fair in this area. And it's just that we look forward to it. It's a lovely place to be, and what better place to start the season?
And how huge it is as well. I mean, this isn't the biggest of towns, but virtually all the pedestrianised bits in the area have rides on.
It has grown over the last few years. It used to be in Red Lion Square, Sheep Market and Broad Street. Well, obviously it's extended. But so has the area. I mean, we're on the border of Peterborough, which is a very, very big town. And, you know, there's a lot of these little villages now. They're not little no more. I think there's a big demand for more and more.
And there really is something for everyone, from the rides that we can see towering into the sky, you know, to the little ones, you know, can have a go on stuff. And
there's something for everybody.
Yeah.
You can come to Stamford Fair and you haven't got to spend a penny. You can just go walk round and absorb all the atmosphere and the smells and everything else. The prices are reasonable, really, in this day and age. So we try and keep it as reasonable as we can, because obviously we want the people to come back every day, you know, and enjoy the fair.
And here right the way through until Saturday.
Saturday's the last day, and then a quick move then to Grantham for Sunday. You know, that's another one. Grantham always follows this fair. The local authority we deal with, Salker Stevens, we get on very well with, you know. So it works out very good. As you can see, things is now starting to hottle.
They certainly are. William Percival, thank you very much for joining us on Rutland Radio. Lovely to see you again. Thank you.
This is Rutland Radio.
Yeah, so my name's Tony Godwin, and I'm working with the Energy Group from Stamford Transition Town, and I'm an architect in practice in Rutland.
Now, tell us about this house at Whitwell, this passive house. What does that itself mean?
Well, the passive house is not so much a house type, but it's actually a methodology of super insulating a building and making it very airtight.
Does it look different?
No, it doesn't. I mean, there's solar panels on the roof, but then a lot of houses have solar panels, and I don't think it's until you get inside and see the thickness of the walls that you would start to see something different. And then you might notice that the windows are triple glazed. It's stone clad. We've made a cavity and we put Clipsham stone on the front face so it blends in with the conservation area.
How much does yours cost to run?
Well, I think the first year is about £900. Now that's for a property which is 241 square metres. The builder who built the house, who lives somewhere in darkest Leicestershire, he says his energy bill for a house about the same size is about £4,000.
And you're obviously trying to, do something to stop the energy being consumed in the first place by building something like this.
And really just providing the heat that you need from solar gain, from the equipment you've got in the house, computers running. We cook in the evenings. You leave the oven open and just let the heat use the heat. And of course the number of people you've got in the house. And passive houses do need a little bit of heat, but not very much. And the thesis was that you could provide what you needed literally through the air circulation system. And we should talk about that. Because having made the house so airtight, of course you do need a ventilation system. And that does add a cost. But it's doing an air change every 3 hours. But it's giving you fully filtered, fresh air. You've got a much healthier indoor air quality. And I have to say that in the year that we've been in the house, I've not had a cold.
So what size of house is it, in terms of, what would it be equivalent to, say, 3-4 bedroom house?
Yes, I mean, it's actually a 5-bedroom house, but my wife and I work from home, so we're actually occupying 2 of the bedrooms.
What sort of price would the whole project cost?
It's about £500,000.
And you expect it to last just like any other house?
Oh yes, it's got to last.
The weekly Rutland Radio podcast.
2 gentlemen from Stamford are cycling through at least 10 countries and leaving Stamford this morning at 9 a.m. They're raising money for 2 good causes, Huntington's disease and also the cafe at Barnhill, Second Helpings. They are Paul McCormick and Stephen Parker. Morning, thank you very much for joining us on Rutland Radio. So this is quite a feat for you, is it? Cycling through 10 countries, not something that you'd normally do.
No, good morning, Rob. No, it's not something we normally do. We're 2 old codgers. We do a little bit of cycling during the week and at the weekend. So, no, it's not something we do very often. So looking forward to it and both raising money for great causes.
So how long do you think it's going to take you then?
Well, we've given ourselves 60 days. We reckon it'll be about 50 days cycling. So we have 10 days there for sort of a contingency, so the event of mechanical failure or illness, or even if we just find somewhere nice to look around and enjoy the sights.
So how many miles a day do you reckon that is on average?
Well, it's 4,000 kilometres, so that's about 2,500 miles. So we're aiming to do about 80 kilometres a day. So we set off in about half an hour, heading to Cambridge today. So that's a nice round 50 miles or so. So we'll get there hopefully this evening, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. So on the road for about 7 to 8 hours and then cycling time about 5 hours. So cycle at a nice steady pace, 10 mile an hour.
And tell us about the 2 causes that you're raising money for.
The 2 causes, well, Second Helpings, they are a local Stamford charity. We're run entirely by volunteers. And what we do is we intercept food that's destined for landfill waste from the big food retailers. And then on a Saturday, our volunteers, we cook that food and then we provide meals to the people of Stamford in a pay-as-you-feel, pay-as-you-can-afford cafe.
And Huntington's disease?
Well, I'll put you on to Stephen for Huntington's disease, and here's Stephen.
Hello, Stephen.
Hello, Rob. Good morning.
Yes, tell us about Huntington's disease.
I'm cycling for Huntington's disease, that's right. It's a disease caused by a faulty gene on chromosome 4, and the gene which produces a protein called Huntingtin, and it was discovered in 1993. There's no cure for the disease, but people across the world are working hard to find one. It usually develops in adulthood and causes a very wide range of symptoms. Known as often called as HD, is a hereditary disorder of the central nervous system.
And
it usually develops when people are aged between 30 to 50 years, although it can onset in earlier or later in life.
And is this something you've been personally affected by?
Well, I once attended a conference in Cornwall where I met some sufferers and their carers and their families, and became involved with that through my in-laws. Yeah.
So how can people support you on your two causes? Is there a Just Giving page or something?
We've if they read Stamford Mercury on Friday, we had an article in there with the links to our Just Giving page, and mine is a Virgin Money Giving page. I think we're both trying to raise about £2,000. I think Paul's 1,300, and I think I'm at 1,900 now, so not far to go. So if anybody out there is listening and they want to contribute to either cause, it would be most welcome.
OK, I'll dig that out and give those addresses out on the radio and pop them on my blog as well. And gentlemen, very best of luck for your cycle of at least 10 countries, taking 50 to 60 days, Stamford to Istanbul, and starting from Stamford, 9 o'clock this morning. Whereabouts are you going from?
We're going from the Mad Turk on St. Paul Street.
So,
St. Paul Street.
St. Paul's. I always get mixed up between St. Paul's and St. Peter's, heading up towards the boys' school.
Yes, that's right. Yes, we're going to have a little photo shoot there, and then set off from there.
Okay. Well, we look forward to seeing the pictures on social media. Thank you very much for joining us on Rutland Radio. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Rob.
Highlights from the past 7 days. The Rutland Radio Podcast.
I'm Juan Carlos Martin from Bicicleta in Spain.
How have you found our area, Stamford?
We love that area. I mean, I have to tell you that I discovered a part of Britain that I've never been before, which is great. Because we are part of Explore GB, which are, we have 325 buyers from all over the world. Someday we split into groups to do some countries around Britain, and I've been so lucky to be in the Derbyshire and Lincolnshire part of Britain, which is great. And I discovered a couple of cities, which are Buxton and Stamford, that I really, really, really enjoy. And I think also my buyers, I mean, they are quite, because they are intending to do some groups, so which is good. And that will be very good for the city as well.
Yeah, you get noisy motorcycles in Spain as well. But does it compare? Is it a similar size to where you're from?
No, I'm based in Madrid. Madrid is bigger, but it's a lovely city. I mean, I think Stamford, I mean, maybe, it's just my opinion, but don't need to be more bigger, because, I mean, this is a lovely one. And that's what the overseas people like to see, and to taste.
So they like to see more than just London and our big cities? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, people, I'm talking only about the Spanish people, but 70% of the Spanish people who come to Britain, go to London, and then only the 30% are splitting, over the country. And this is one of the places that we need to focus more on that.
This is Rutland Radio.
I'm Jean Bilo, and I was representing Visit Britain.
So tell us, the travel writers that have been here today. They've been
not travel writers, travel agents and tour operators. Came into a large trade fair in Liverpool on Friday. Friday we transferred to Derby. We stayed at Bredsall Priory. The following day we went from Bredsall Priory to Chatsworth House. From Chatsworth House to Buxton. Tour of Buxton, and then we went on to Thornbridge Brewery. And after Thornbridge Brewery we made our way to Lincoln. We checked into Branston Hall Hotel. And that evening we went to dinner in the cells at Lincoln Castle, very interesting. And then that brought us up to Sunday yesterday. We went back into Lincoln. We looked around the cathedral and castle quarter. And then after lunch we went to Evensong in Lincoln Cathedral, and in the evening we had fish and chips in the chippy. And this morning, Monday, we've been to Grimsthorpe Castle before coming over here to Stamford, where we've had a lovely lunch with the mayor and other members of the council. And at 1 o'clock the groups departed for the airport.
So, what are their broad impressions? I guess some of them have more experience maybe than the people they're sending the holidays to anyway.
Well, it's interesting, but none of them had been to Lincolnshire or Derbyshire, and they were very, very impressed. They loved the countryside, because the aim is to get people to broadcast the fact that England is much broader than just London. We all know how wonderful London is, but for incoming tour operators, they like now to have the opportunity to offer to their customers other destinations. So this has been an ideal opportunity to show them that they can come into Lincolnshire, Buxton, Derbyshire, and see what wonderful facilities there are, and encourage people to book holidays that take in this area.
Now, we love our town here. Were they as enamoured with it as us?
Yes, they were. The big complaint, if you can call it that, was they didn't have enough time to shop. But they thought it was absolutely beautiful. They loved the streets, they loved the stone. They thought it was so clean and so picturesque. And all of them have said that they will come back. So we do hope that they do bring groups with them.
Rutland Radio's best bits on the podcast.
Oh, I'm John Yard, and I am the convener of the Energy Group. We stand for Transition Town, and transition towns they have a sort of a steering committee, but you have various groups, and I just happen to run the Energy Group, and the Energy Group put on this show.
So tell us what kind of things people can see all week. We're here in the Arts Centre gallery. We can see windows, we can see a building, which I know you're actually organising a tour to at Whitwell.
Yes, at Whitwell tomorrow. Yes, it's a passive house designed by one of our members, and it's an ultra low energy house. Tony, the architect, is taking a tour tomorrow morning. That's now full, 15 people. He's now taking another tour in the afternoon, so obviously very popular. Now, we've divided the show into two halves. One half is energy saving and the other is renewable energy generation. What we're trying to show is that it's most important that you look at your energy saving before you go on to look at your energy generation. And that's brought out in the hopefully in the layout of the room.
So the less you need, the less you'll need to actually prevent from escaping.
Exactly. There's got to be a meeting of the way somewhere. You've got to save energy and you've got to generate energy, and you've got to bring the two together. We can. Yeah.
How practical is this for people to do in a town like Stamford, when you think, there's some really old properties with fantastically thick walls, you've got the new builds, maybe some of them have got wooden frames which are a bit warmer?
Yes. When you have a town like Stamford, it has its challenges, because one of the best ways to insulate buildings is from the outside. You put the insulation on the outside, not the inside or even between the walls. In Stamford, that's impossible, so you have to really think about going either inside, but there's so many listed buildings, so Stamford is a challenge, I must admit. But the new build, in new build properties, you can get a lot more insulation in cavities. But I'm afraid a lot of the builders actually don't subscribe to, or they just meet the building regulations and don't do, as Tony has done, go for the extremely low energy houses.
So people can see this exhibition right throughout the week and learn a little more about what's available.
Yes, they can. Yes, we're open every day. We're open as the Arts Centre is open every day from 10 in the morning until 8 at night. And then in the evening we have various events. Tomorrow night, Tuesday night, is our film night, films on energy. We have 2 hours of short films on energy conservation, energy generation, community energy, draft proofing, and so the whole series over 2 hours. The longest one I think is 45 minutes, and the shortest is 1 minute. So it's that should be quite interesting. And on Friday there is a talk about the passive house standard, the very low energy standard, and that's going to be given by Tony. our architect, and also the Green Building Store, who have come down from Huddersfield, and they are going to share the platform with Tony. That's Friday between 7 and 9. The film's tomorrow between 7 and 9.
So how important is it for people, in this town to think about this? We're all being told that fossil fuels aren't going to last forever. Mm-hmm. It's not a great thing to do for the environment, burning all this stuff to generate the power that we have.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the message for a householder is to save. In Stamford, it's very, very difficult to insulate well, but the message is to save. And the exhibition does have lots of tips on saving energy, turning down your thermostat, wearing more clothing in-house. So we as individuals can do a great deal. You can look at the technologies available, PV panels, a heat pump, wind turbines we've discovered in Lincolnshire and in Rutland are not the favourite. So that might be difficult to convince people to look at wind turbines, but wind turbines tend to be a larger scale than the average householder or office.
I would love a house that has solar panels on the roof, has a little turbine just to generate all the electric that the house needed. Do you think that's going to be possible in the next few years?
I think over the next 10, 15 years, we've got to work much harder in our new build. It's the new build that we can really attack. Retrofit, we know is difficult, but it must be done. But I think in new builds where it's essential, and our standards should be at least the Passive House standard.
John Yard, thanks very much for joining us at Rutland Radio. Stamford Arts Centre Gallery, right the way through this week, you can see this whole exhibition on how to save energy and see what the future actually looks like.
OK, thank you very much.
The weekly Rutland Radio podcast.
Simon Cole, Chief Constable, Leicestershire Police.
Now, this is the last of your engagement sessions today here in Oakham. I understand people have travelled literally the length and breadth of the country to speak to you here today.
It's the last one with Sir Clive as PCC, and obviously the next Police and Crime Commissioner will have to decide what they want to do after the elections in May. But we've been doing these sessions pretty much once a month at various places, and today someone's come up from London because they've seen it on the media, someone's come across from Hinckley, and there's been a few people locally, although it must be said it's chucking it down with rain, which has affected probably the number of people we might have seen otherwise at the market here in Oakham.
What do you see are the challenges for a county such as Rutland with the police?
I think the challenge is that there are issues around rurality, there are issues about the size of the place in terms of, it's a big place to cover, and candidly, it's a really nice place, which is why it comes out so well in all of those kind of national surveys. But within that, there are still issues that we need to deal with. Some of those take place behind closed doors, domestic abuse and the like. And then there's an issue for us about how do we maximise our presence, because we have a finite number of officers and staff, and I think that's the challenge. Within that, I would urge people to report stuff. A couple of people have said, oh well, I phoned up and you didn't come. Yeah, well, okay, if we don't come, we don't come. But actually, if we need to come, we definitely will be there if it's an emergency. And we base what we do on analysis of crime patterns and things that are ongoing, and so it's important that we know what's going on.
And there's been a big change, hasn't there, in the last couple of years in terms of the way that you've operated in the county, from having the inquiries desk at the county council, to having a smaller police station, to spending less money doing that, really.
Yeah, look, we've had to find efficiencies. We've had to find about 20% of our budget, around £30 million worth of savings, and that's meant we've done things differently. Your beat team here, people like Joe Lloyd are being guinea pigs at the moment for mobile technology and how we use that, and that links into the wider issues around Wi-Fi and fast broadband and things across Rutland. We've moved in with the council because that seems a really sensible thing to do in terms of the front office, and we've rationalised our buildings because, being really candid, across the whole force area I've got hundreds fewer people, so I don't need as much room for them. So we've tried to make sure that we maximise what we spend on cops and staff who are doing investigation, and they might be in their bright yellow jackets as I am now, which is thankfully a waterproof bright yellow jacket. They might be somebody looking at online crime or child abuse or really difficult issues. So we're trying to deal with the risks that people face.
There still are police here day
and night. I mean, I know, speaking to Joe just a second ago, he was on nights, he was out on operations last night.
Yeah, look, we've got a really active neighbourhood team here based in Oakham. They are really concerned about local issues. You know, this morning I've had discussions around everything from burglary through to hare coursing, through to some of the experiences of our rural communities. They're very active on social media, so people can see what they're doing, see that they're out and about. And I think they're widely recognised within the community. And you know, I regularly get told, you know, please don't take them away. We don't have an intention to. The budget has been sort of frozen in effect. It's actually gone down a little bit, and that means we can look at sustaining numbers rather than losing people. So we're really committed to be in the heart of local communities, working with those communities to solve problems. And one of the joys of being chief, this week alone, I've had discussions around radicalisation, I've had discussions around hate crimes, I've had discussions around hare coursing. You know, Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland are really diverse places. We know we need a presence in Oakham. We know that it needs to understand the issues of the local community, of the nighttime economy here, of the service personnel and what they're experiencing when they're doing their bit for the country, often overseas. And of course we're stood right by the school as well. So a complex community, a community we're really proud to be part of.
And just one final word just on the awards, which are happening later.
Yeah, it's awards day and it's fantastic, and there are officers, staff and members of the public will be getting awards for long service, for brilliance, for bravery. I love awards days, although I will have to have changed out of my very, very, very wet indeed clothing into a different set to do them. But it's really important we acknowledge particularly the members of the public who've done some remarkable things, and officers and staff as well. And some of the awards today, astonishingly brilliant investigations, really brave things people have done, and really empathetic and compassionate things around some really difficult cases and incidents. So it's awards this afternoon, and it will be a fantastic occasion, and hopefully people will feel that we said thank you to them.
Chief Constable Simon Cole, thanks for joining us on Rutland Radio.
Cheers, Rob. Thank you. Nice to see you.
This is Rutland Radio.
Clive Loader, Police and Crime Commissioner.
And coming to the end of your time, actually, as PCC, tell us how you found things in Rutland. There was obviously a lot of support for you, to actually be elected in the first place.
Yeah, there was, and I'm grateful for that, and I very much hope that I've served the people here in the way that they would have wanted me to do. But, I'm Police and Crime Commissioner for everybody, from the middle of Leicester City and some of the very difficult estates there, through to the Leicestershire as a whole. So it's a very broad canvas that I've done my very best to look after and make sure the police are doing what they should be doing to look after our various communities.
And it's been very much a role that along with everyone else that was elected at the time, that you've mapped out, that there was kind of unknown territory in a way from the sort of Barry Roper days where they kind of looked after the police. Yeah,
you're quite right. I mean, this is part of the attraction for me of standing in the election, was the fact that it was a new job, and it isn't very often in life that you get quite literally a clean canvas and the chance to set up a new office, a new relationship between the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner and the Chief Constable and his team and so on. So that to me was one of the challenges, but also the opportunities.
How does the political nature of your position actually influence how you make those decisions?
I'd like to think that there would not be one person in this 1.1 million area of people that the Chief and I serve that could look at any decision that I've made and said, he only made that decision because he was as I am, a Conservative Police and Crime Commissioner. So the answer is not very much, except for some core values. I mean, I've never made any bones that I do not think that I should ask the good taxpayers of this area to pay £1 more for any given level of security and safety than I absolutely have to. But it's interesting, of course, that in 3 of the 4 years where I've set a local tax, the precept, in 3 of those 4 years I've actually had to raise it in order to guarantee police capability where people wanted to be kept safe.
People feel very much as though they need the police here as much as in the city Leicester. That must be the biggest challenge, really. The fact that actually, not a great deal, thankfully, does actually happen that the police need to be involved with compared to an inner city area.
Well, To an extent that's true, but of course there are other things. For example, when you live out in the countryside, and I'm lucky enough to do so, you can't expect that the police would be with you, for example, as quickly as if you live next to a police station in the middle of Leicester City. That's just a fact. And also some of the crimes that hit rural communities, they rock them because they feel that, we've recently had a spate of thefts of lead and copper from church roofs. And communities have contacted the Chief Constable and me and said, what are you doing about this? We feel vulnerable. And I really understand that, which is why, for example, I've asked the Chief to redouble his efforts to, protect people and what they call target harden, i.e. to look after themselves as best they can, but also, frankly, to catch the villains that do this stuff.
Do you have any message for the next PCC in Rutland and Leicestershire?
Only this, that I hope that I've built a foundation on which they can build. I will wish them well. This is not an easy job. I have to say, at times you feel that people will attack you politically, even though you may be doing what they would have done themselves. I've found that rather difficult. But on the other hand, the thing that I have really enjoyed, Rob, is building a relationship with the Chief and the team, but also the commissioning side of life. We have turned round youth offending in this area, and I'm really proud of that. Why? Because, of course, it brings down crime and so on, but also it stops young lives from being wasted. So there are real opportunities for making a big difference, not just in the short, but in the medium to long term, and I hope they grasp those opportunities.
It's Clive Loader. Thank you very much for joining us on Rutland Radio.
It's a real pleasure. Thank you.
Highlights from the past 7 days, the Rutland Radio Podcast.
Hi, I'm Will.
I'm Katie.
I'm Owen. I'm Olivia.
Now, tell us what you've been doing today and why.
Well, currently I've been doing the weather on a blue screen, so I've had to Photoshop people out of weather maps, which I'm currently doing now. Hard work.
Basically, you're creating your own TV station just for a day.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing, but everyone's got their own little jobs.
So what are you up to?
I'm doing sport with a few other people, and it's pretty exciting.
What kind of sports are you doing? Stuff at college? Or
We're doing, if people should support their local teams, people from Leicester should support Leicester and things like that.
It's amazing how many people don't. Have you found that?
Yeah.
What have you been up to?
I've just been generally helping out everyone with the scripts over the past couple of weeks.
And how does it feel now you've actually got to the full day? We're nearly all the way through it. Has it been quite hectic?
It's been very busy today, helping up and down, being the runner, getting everyone ready.
I was the main presenter of the piece and linking together the different articles and news items for today.
Have they been good at telling you what's been going on before you've needed to know?
Yeah, it's been really good. We got my piece done pretty quickly. It was an easy thing to do, and then I've just been helping out with the others during the day.
So what have you been doing, presenting it or news reading? Or?
So yeah, I'll just introduce what we're doing and then link over to everyone else doing their different subjects.
Now that's all going on the website by the end of the day, isn't it?
By 4 o'clock today, I believe that it will be up on our website on the YouTube channel as well to watch. Fingers crossed.
And would any of you actually like to do this full time when it comes to it? Has it encouraged you or has it put you off?
It's kind of a mix of both because you want to do some of it, but yet you don't want to do the other bits.
Do you mean in a way you want to kind of do the bits that you know you're going to enjoy?
Yeah, because I enjoyed the filming part. I kind of want to do that bit, just not any of the other bits.
And I know the college has been on TV before, national telly. How great would that be to actually see your stuff up there?
Be a bit embarrassing as well, because everyone would be like, oh, we can do better than them. But I'm pretty sure we're the best school around doing BBC News School Report.
Well, that's it for this week's Rutland Radio podcast. If you have any comments, you can email us via the website, rutlandradio.co.uk, and we'll have a new version on our website from Monday.
This is a download from Rutland Radio. For more information, go to rutlandradio.co.uk. This is a download from Rutland Radio.
Hello, and thank you for downloading the Rutland Radio podcast from rutlandradio.co.uk. This is where you can hear the best bits from the last week.
Hello, Arthur Westbrook speaking.
Hello, Arthur Westbrook. This is Rob Pisani from Rutland Radio speaking. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Tell us what you're doing in the Easter holidays. You've got something really special planned, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm cycling 100 kilometres in Mallorca.
How amazing is that? So, 100 kilometres. How old are you?
7.
That's a long way for a 7-year-old. Have you ever done anything like that before?
No.
How long do you normally cycle?
10 metres.
So not very far?
No.
Now, you're doing this for Team George. What do you know about Team George?
Well, I know that he broke his neck and when he was going to make a tackle.
That was in that rugby game.
Yeah.
So how are you going to help him then by cycling?
Well, I'm raising money so, people sponsoring me, and the money's going to Team George.
How wonderful is that? So how long do you think it's going to take you to cycle 100 kilometres?
5 days, yeah.
5 days. You've got it all planned out?
Yeah.
You're not doing it just on your own, though, are you?
No.
Who's doing it with you?
My mum, my dad, my brother.
Have a lovely time doing it, and thanks for talking to us at Rutland Radio. Now, you're on Just Giving, aren't you?
Yep.
If you go to Team George Gnome with a G, and then people can donate to support you.
Rutland Radio's best bits on the podcast.
I'm called Daniel Alfieri, and I'm playing Jesus in Jesus Christ Superstar. Jesus is an interesting part to play. It's quite a demanding role, but I'm really looking forward to the challenge, and I'm enjoying myself so far.
Hello, I'm James Barlow, and I'm playing the part of Judas. Judas is kind of the misunderstood bad guy of the whole story. He's not that bad, really. He's a lovable fellow. He just wants to do right, you know.
Hi, I'm Hayley Beasley, and I'm playing Mary Magdalene. She gets to sing an amazing song. Thank you, Mr. Lloyd Webber. I really enjoy playing the character because I think she's very misunderstood, and you get to play a vulnerable side.
Do you think this feels really religious as a show?
Not especially, you know, it's kind of another portrayal of the story of Jesus Christ and his last week. It's not anti-religious, it's not particularly religious, it's just another way of viewing the story.
And this is a rock opera, isn't it? This is kind of a real challenge for everyone involved.
It is a rock opera. There's some pretty high notes in there. It's incredibly challenging to sing. However, I think the cast have really come together and have pushed themselves on each other, and it's sounding really, really nice.
Mary, you're the soothing kind of character of the whole thing that kind of holds it together, that actually it's all going to be okay at the end.
Yeah, I like to think that in amongst all the madness that's going on throughout the whole musical, Mary's numbers do seem to put everyone in a nice state of calm, and then Judas or Jesus come in and put everything back in a spin. But lovely getting to sing all these wonderful songs and with all these super talented people.
The weekly Rutland Radio podcast.
It's Rutland Radio breakfast time. I'm Rob Pisani. If you're around the Stamford area and Essendine, that sort of area, you might well have seen some yellow posters that have gone up over the last couple of days. This is all because of a clothes sale which is going on to help Nepal, Saturday the 2nd of April. Now, this is just one event that a woman from Essendine is holding to help raise funds to help build a house in Nepal. Now, Shireen Fenn, you are going to actually literally, over about a week, help build this house.
Yes, I am.
Are you a house builder, or is it something you've done before?
No, I work at a dental surgery. I've never built a house before, but I'm told that what you need is a willingness and an enthusiasm to do it. So hopefully I'll take a bit of that with me instead.
Now, we try very much to do radio with pictures where we can. You brought in some pictures here of this community. Tell us about the community that you're going to help, because, you know, looking at these pictures, it is just rubble.
Yeah.
There's nowhere even for people to have a roof over their heads.
No, there's not. The village that I'm going to is a village called Sursung, which is a very remote part of the Rosawa district of Nepal. We fly into Kathmandu, then we have a 6-hour drive before we then have to trek into the village because there is no road. The village was devastated in the earthquake, and I understand that most people in the village are actually living in tents at the moment, and they will do for the foreseeable future. So the opportunity I've got is to go in there, and once we get there we have 7 days to build a house. So we start from digging the post holes and clearing the area to constructing the house and giving a family of 8 people a home.
It's a project that's costing about £2,000 to fund. You've got about £1,500 to raise. You've been inundated with clothes, you tell me.
I have. I've had some fantastic donations. Thank you so much to people who have donated. I have everything from ball gowns to jeans and T-shirts. I've got designer labels and high street clothing in a huge variety of sizes. And so, yes, we've got something for everybody. And, of course, tea and cake, which is always useful.
This is Saturday the 2nd of April. It runs from 10:30 through till 3 at the United Reformed Church Hall, Broad Street in Stamford. So are you putting the brakes on donations now in terms of, you've got everything that you need, you just need people to come along?
If anyone has anything that they would like to donate, then I will gladly accept it. There's always going to be a home for it, and the more variety that we'll have, the better. But really, if you'd love to come to the sale, I'd love to see you. If you'd like any information about the challenge itself, please do come down. I'll be there and I'll have some photographs to show people and be able to tell them a little bit about the project that I'm working on, how you can help me with that. And come along, please do. Have a chat, have a rummage, bag a bargain. We've got ladies, gents, children's clothing, as I say, all in great condition, either pre-loved, and we have brand new with tags clothing as well. So yes, please do come along.
It's a real life event, isn't it, for you? And I imagine for everyone who's going, something you've never done before, where you're really going to make a difference. You're going to put up this metal-framed house for people to live in, to get a proper permanent roof over their heads.
Absolutely. I've never done anything like it. I've always wanted to do something tangible, a charity challenge. I've done a few fundraisers before for various different charities. There's so many good causes. It's always very difficult to pick your spot, if you like. But this one is something that I was talking to a friend at Christmas. We were surrounded by Christmas presents in a beautiful house, and I wondered in 5 years if I would remember what people had bought me. For this family in Sursung, in 5 years, hopefully they'll still have the house that we're building. It's worth it.
How can people get in touch with you if they've got any donations or they'd like to find out more?
They can contact me by email if they'd like to do that. My email address is shirinfen, which is SHIRINFENN @gmail.com, or my mobile number is 07845 586 724, and you'll find me on Facebook as well.
And we'll pop those details on my blog, along with some photos of what we've been talking about today. Very best of luck. I know you're off to try and persuade the Rotary to actually support your cause as well. I know they've done a lot for Nepal as well, haven't they?
They have. They're a great organisation. They help a lot of people in a lot of ways. So yes, I'm going to have a chat with them tomorrow and tell them a little bit about what I'm going to be doing when I'm in Nepal.
And you're doing a talk later today as well to hopefully raise some more money or get some more money kind of directed your way.
Yes, hopefully. I'm going to go and speak to the Stamford Rotary group in St Martin's at lunchtime today, and tell them a little bit about what I'm going to be doing.
Rutland Radio's best bits on the podcast.
Kaylee Brooks, Information Officer for the Rutland Osprey Project.
So, the Rutland Sign of Spring has begun. Tell us what's happened so far.
Well, we had our first osprey return on the 17th of March, a breeding female from one of our outlying nest sites, not the main public one. We've had 2 more females since, one of which I'm very happy to say is the breeding female from the public nest. She arrived back this morning. I got a call from my volunteer at 20 to 7 to say that there's been an osprey sighted in the bay and it looks like our breeding female. And she's since been confirmed to be such.
It's a long old journey, and you actually track it by radio, don't you?
We do. We have one osprey at the moment currently satellite tagged. She's another one of our breeding females. Last we heard, she was in Morocco, so she's making steady progress. We expect to see her this week as well.
And although so many other things have actually happened really early this year, the ospreys are kind of on time, more or less, give or take a day.
Yeah, this is the time of year we would generally expect them back. In fact, the Manton Bay female, the public nest female, we didn't expect to see her for another couple of weeks. Last year she arrived on the 6th of April, so she gave us quite a pleasant surprise when she returned. But it's generally this time of year.
And what about Mr. Rutland?
Mr. Rutland hasn't shown his face yet. He's normally the first osprey to return. Last year was the 17th of March, so he's running a little bit late, but we're still holding out our hopes that he'll make it back again for his 19th year.
Now, people can actually track what happens with the ospreys on the Osprey Cam. They can come down to the visitor centre where we are at Linden at the moment.
Absolutely, yes. We've got a website, ospreys.org.uk, that people can look at. That's got news every day from what happens, and they can watch the webcam on the website. We also have a live feed of the nest that streams into the Linden Visitor Centre, and of course you can view the ospreys live from the hide that's on the nature reserve.
And then you've got the cruises as well happening through the year. When do they start?
Yes, the cruises. They start on the 28th of May and run through until the 27th of August. on alternating Saturdays up until July and then Saturdays and Wednesdays. So we have a lot of cruises happening. Brilliant way of seeing ospreys flying around the reservoir and often fishing. We also have a special cruise this year on the 15th of July, which is to celebrate our 20th anniversary, as 2016 marks 20 years since the project began.
Kelly Brooks, thanks very much for joining us on Rutland Radio.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's it for this week's Rutland Radio podcast. If you have any comments, you can email us via the website, rutlandradio.co.uk, and we'll have a new version on our website from Monday.
This is a download from Rutland Radio. For more information, go to rutlandradio.co.uk.